Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday night and you tuned into Friday Night Sport with myself, Dakir Daud. I'm your host and I'm going to be taking you through some sporting action that happened this week. Well, for those of you tuning in on the socials, don't be shy to drop a comment in the comment section below. And by all means, tweet, share, retweet, do what you need to do to get the show on your fellow followers' screens. But for tonight, we're going to be wrapping up the World Cup, chatting all things FIFA World Cup with Mpho Mutloane. He's going to be telling us what went down in the FIFA World Cup from a superb opening ceremony, one that won over the hearts of many, to the upsets of the World Cup and the impressive performances. What was your favorite goal of the World Cup thus far? Mine, for sure, was last night's goal by Brazil. Richarlison proving exactly why he took the place of Firmino in the Brazil World Cup team. A phenomenal volley. My goal of the World Cup this far. Upset of the World Cup this far? I think it has to be Saudi Arabia. I mean, come on. Those guys are just playing some insane football. But then many would disagree with me and say that maybe Iran beating Wales today was the upset of the tournament. Well, what was yours? Tell us in the comment section below. But let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into the action with the analyst himself. Mpho, thank you so much for joining me on Salam Media this evening. Good evening, and I hope that you having a spectacular and superb World Cup this far.
Thank you for having me. The World Cup's been all I've expected, I think. I think it's given me a little bit more than I expected, actually, but it's been a great World Cup.
No, definitely, it's been a superb World Cup this far. What do you think of the opening ceremony? Let's just start with that.
Look, I caught the back end of it. It felt well. Look, they brought Zakumi back. There was Morgan Freeman.
Or networking issues as
There was
usual.
quite a few interesting things there, and
Yeah, we just had a slight break in network, but we're back online. We're back online. Looks like we're just having a couple of technical issues there with Mpho on the line. But like you said, Sakumi made a return. Do many of you recall Sakumi? What was your feelings and thoughts around seeing Sakumi again? Did he bring some? Did he bring some nostalgic feeling of the 2010 World Cup? I mean, that's spectacular and phenomenal. Mpho, what is your take on seeing Sakumi again? How did you feel when you seen him again for the first time
I
after so
he
many
took
years?
us he took us back to 2010, and I really enjoyed it. It was really nice. And yeah, look, it was really comforting to see Zakumi back again.
You know, it's always interesting talking to so many Muslim people about this. And I mean, um, chatting to somebody who's not too familiar with the cultures and the religious practices in Qatar. What was your take on the World Cup thus far in the opening ceremony? Um, do you feel like something like this united the world, or do you feel it was more destructive than actually constructive?
Look, I think it united the world. I think there'll always be people who don't understand other people's cultures because they're used to their own. And so we just need to be have a little bit of tolerance. And I think for me, the World Cup has to go to every part of the world because it's a global game. You can't say it's a global game, but there's a part of the world that we don't take the World Cup to because of whatever reason that may
Mm.
be. And that's likely it's been kind of racist and a little bit of discriminatory from those quarters who are angry and don't want necessarily the World Cup to be there for religious reasons or reasons like drinking. Who you can, as the president says, for 3 hours not drink and enjoy the World Cup the way the locals enjoy it, rather than necessarily the way you enjoy it, because it's a learning experience. You were supposed to learn about cultures and different countries, and if you want Saudi Arabia to come to your World Cup, you better be ready to be able to host a Saudi Arabia, be hosted by Saudi Arabia or even a Qatar in their own World Cup.
And I mean, it's a valid point you have there. And you know, much controversy has been around the rainbow armband that hasn't been worn by many of the teams. What's your take around that?
Look, look, I do sit on the I do, like, to a certain extent, think that they should be able to express their own feelings and thoughts, but they also need to be respectful of where they are.
Mm.
Obviously there's a Western way of looking at things, And to a certain extent, that's the one way. But there's also a way to look at the inclusivity and everything else. And if they want to respect that, they should be allowed to. But it shouldn't be in a protest against the World Cup being taken to a Qatar, because even their own countries discriminate against certain different types of people, and it's unfair
Mm,
to then pick on one group and say no, they don't they discriminate on one. Meanwhile, when you go to the UK, they discriminate, or anywhere else in Europe or anywhere else, they discriminate against people who look like me or you.
mm,
And so that's for me a little bit of a tea calling the kettle black. And so it's just one of those
mm,
situations where there needs to be a little bit of understanding, and everyone's just hopping on that. And to a certain
mm.
extent, yes, you need to put that in the focus, but you also need to understand that there's another side to the argument as well. And yeah, it's been tough on the players, and I get that. And I don't want to say let's play football, because if it's important to you, then by all means do that. Just know that you need to also be respectful of where you are.
No, definitely, definitely. I mean, if I just had to do and please, if I came into your home, I'm sure you'd be kicking me as far as the front gate and possibly straight into the street.
Exactly.
No, definitely. But enough of that. I mean, let's jump straight into the football action. Round one, done. We've seen a host of upsets, some impressive results. Who impressed you the most thus far in the tournament?
I think the team that's impressed me the most, and it's a team that it's three teams that come above my expectations. France, I didn't think with all the injuries they'd be
Mm-hmm.
able to emphatically dominate teams, and they did that in that first game. Spain as well. I thought Spain's World Cup was the one in America in 2026, not this one, just largely because they're very young, right? They're
Yeah.
a young squad, and to be able to emphatically put teams away tells me that
Mm,
this could be a moment where they could steal it, because I see this World Cup as a team that doesn't necessarily win World Cups often. It's going to be one that someone who hasn't won it before effectively. And so
mm,
that's the one. And then obviously England have done well with their 6-2. England have never put teams away as emphatically as they did against Iran. And we saw how good Iran played against Wales. So that kind of tells you how actually good this England side is. And then obviously Brazil yesterday. Brazil are the standard setters. They showed us. And they beat a team that scored the most goals in the qualifying in Europe. And so for me, it's those four teams that I'm looking at
mm.
right now. And I think Brazil takes the cake. But the others have punched above their weight of expectation.
Way above their weight. I mean, Iran coming now in 2-0 victory over 2-0 victory over Wales earlier today. What do you make of the Saudi Arabia one? Because I think that was the result that impressed many, and I think it could. Yeah, I think that was definitely the result that impressed many so far in the tournament.
So the fact that this tournament is being played in November means that teams don't have like a month or 6 weeks to prepare and
Mm,
get that gelling and that cohesion, and that's kind of what Argentina had, right? They only had a few training sessions at a game, but it's not enough to kind of get them gelling and get them running at all cylinders. Where Saudi Arabia, majority of their players play in one team, so you have that
mm,
cohesion, you have that understanding, and if you've got the good coaching that Herve Renard gives you, you can steal a few from a team like that. To a certain extent, if you look at the Japanese team, right? Yes, they play all over Europe, but they've played together for years. And so
yeah.
when they beat Germany, it's not a situation of wow, that's an upset. Actually no, it's a team that is better is coached well and is more cohesive compared to a team that is have everyone plays around the world. They've just had a few
Mm,
games. They thought that they could get away with not being buttoned up, and that's what happened against Argentina, and that's that they got found out. And so the question obviously is the game two: will they be able to be better at that and do better and finally gel? Because you've only got three chances in the group stages.
mm. And many of which should need to seal the deal in your first two games. Your final game
Mm,
shouldn't be one where you're still competing to get through your group and things like that. But looking at it, and that was quite the result that shocked many. And then obviously today, Iran
mm.
versus Wales, another result that shocked many. So far, do you think that you're still looking at having Cristiano Ronaldo en route for the Golden Boot? I mean, he's now one of the first players to score in every World Cup that he's played in. He's also received a Man of the Match award in every World Cup that he's played in. The records just keep tallying up. for one of the greats himself. Also, one of the few players that are playing in this World Cup that don't belong to a club.
Yes, but look, I think obviously with Portugal and the way Portugal play, he's going to have many chances to put the ball away. He's their
Mm,
penalty taker, so he's going to score a lot more. My only question is, what do they look without him? And they look better without him, and that's something that we need to discuss.
mm.
Rafael Leao looks really good. So too does João Felix. And Bruno looked much better when Ronaldo came off the field.
Yeah.
So there is something there, and I wouldn't bench him, but there is something that they have in their locker for when they play the bigger
Mm.
teams for like the final 25 minutes, take him off and throw in this young group of players and they can do it. And so I like Portugal have done well. I just look at them defensively and I'm just not sure. I really am not sure.
It's quite a tricky one if you look at it. And yeah, ultimately defense wins matches when it comes to the later
Mm.
stages of the tournament. Looking at it, but Netherlands, come on! I mean, this is a team that many people would have thought are going to take things all the way this tournament, and it looked quite impressive in match one, match two. They're now 1-1 with Ecuador. That's holding them in this match. Do you think this is another situation where your minnows are just rising up and competing?
Look, I think the Dutch are the team that you just don't know what you're going to get on the day. And today, like even in the game against Senegal, I wasn't impressed by them.
Mm,
They sneaked a win. Obviously, they scored 2 goals, but it wasn't as convincing as the others. And that's why I didn't put them in my teams to watch. And then so you are going to find situations like that because Louis Van Gaal is playing with 5 defensive players. It is a little creative up front, but it's
mm,
more reliant on Cody Gakpo than Vincent Janssen
I
and
feel you.
and 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 like Memphis or even
Mm,
Bergwijn. So for me, they can get all the way because their route is probably the easiest out of everybody if they win the group.
mm,
But outside of that, I'm just not sure as yet. They probably have a semi-final against probably C1, which would not necessarily be France, but could be it could be actually, yeah, it could be France or Spain or Germany. So they
mm.
need to be very careful as to how they build up this World Cup because they might come undone in a quarterfinal when they've had an
Yeah.
easy route through the World Cup.
No, definitely, and I think that that is something to obviously keep in mind going forward. Once we do get to the business end of the tournament, how you end your group definitely determines who you're going to be playing in the next round of the World Cup. Interesting times, interesting times. I mean, a hectic weekend of football ahead. What's your game of the weekend if you look at all the fixtures that we have on offer?
So the big ones for me, there's two. It's Argentina, Mexico tomorrow. Argentina loses, they're effectively out of the World Cup. Same two, another elimination game, Spain versus Germany tomorrow on Sunday. If
Mm,
Germany loses, they're out of the World Cup. Those are 2 games I'm watching. Those are 2 games anybody should be watching because if anything goes wrong, then they might find
yeah.
themselves in trouble. Tonight, USA England later on. If USA win because they want to make a statement, this could be a really good statement for them if they beat England.
No, definitely. I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how this one unfolds and what the team definitely is going to be coming to the party with because USA are certainly showing that the money invested in football has to pay off. It's done so well for the women's side of the game and now just for the men's team to step up. And let's see how this one unfolds and what the weekend has to offer. But I mean also just looking a bit further ahead, there's the likes of our African teams. Who do you think actually stands a chance of making it out of the group stages um, in this tournament? Are we going to rely on the old faithfuls, Ghana, to take us through, even though they've got a bit of a stuttered start in the tournament? Or would it be someone else, the likes of Morocco?
Look, I think the teams that have drawn Morocco, Tunisia have a chance of making it through.
Hmm.
They drew against the stronger teams in their group, Croatia and as well as Denmark. So they have a massive chance. Ghana look good against Portugal. They played the best team in the group. Now they need to find a way to get through to the other two, which is
Mm.
possible. Doesn't look like they've got a lot of goals in them, which is sad, but that's okay. Senegal helped themselves today by beating Qatar. Now they just need to find a way to beat Ecuador, and in a pretty much a lose town match. So that's
Mm.
good. Their fate is still in their hands, and I think that, well, was there another team that I'm missing? It's Senegal. It's Morocco. It's Ghana.
Senegal,
It's
Morocco, Ghana,
Tunisia, and
Cameroon. Cameroon.
Yes.
Yes.
Cameroon really did struggle in their first game. They lost.
Mm,
But they're the ones I'm not so sure about. They've got actually more star-studded players than the other teams, but I think the
yeah.
other teams are just gelling a lot more. And to a certain extent, with Muslim countries and the Muslim nations in North Africa, they feel a lot more at home than the Cameroons and the Ghanaians and the Senegalese. So, like for instance, if Morocco score a goal, the whole crowd, the whole stadium is going to erupt for them.
Mm.
Similar to the way Saudi Arabia and Iran have had that type of support. So that's something that they have in their back pocket to kind of pull away from other teams.
Well, it's gonna have to see how this one unfolds and see what they come to the party with. I'm definitely gonna be having my
Mm.
dancing shoes on because I am not gonna be turning my TV off this weekend. I'm gonna be staying glued to all the football that is on offer. Oh, it's a paradise for a football lover. It's paradise. I mean, you could be watching football all day long. Mpho, before I let you go, and I'm gonna put you here on the block. Let's not leave any stone unturned here.
Mm-hmm.
You've not told us who you think is gonna win the World Cup, or who you think is gonna make it through the groups. But watching this and critically analyzing football and watching it with your eye, that critical eye, that not many people are blessed with. Tell us, team to win the World Cup. Who's it gonna be?
I can't run away from Group H. It's or G actually. It's Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Brazil look like they want to take it. They're a big nation with everything intact, and they've done it before, even though it was 20 years ago. They've got the memory. I think Brazil's the team to take it. They looked so good. They looked bad in the first half, but in the second half they looked impressive. And the only problem for
Mm.
them is Neymar, is whether Neymar's fit or not.
Well, many would say that they looked stronger without Neymar. When Neymar came off, many people are saying
No.
that the fluidity in that team so much better. From my perspective, though, I think that I just like to see more clinical and more finishing play from Brazil because Brazil's football, it's like they derived that football playing style from South Africa. They have
Yeah.
the best touches. They do everything superb. They transition from defense to attack. Their build-up play is phenomenal, but they just can't seem to find the back of the net with
And
the
it'll come with
chances
time.
they create.
Gotta give them the time. The
We
Vinnies
said
of
the
the
same
world.
about Bafana, and it's been what 3 World Cups later. They still haven't been to one.
No, well, I think there's a difference. I think Brazil play that more fluid Samba type of football. They kept their identity, and they know they can score goals. And there's no doubt when you watch Brazil that they won't score. So, so for me, it's just that, as you say, they need to be more clinical, but you gotta allow them the ability to be able to play the way they play, to manipulate the space the way they want to, and the goals will come. The guys that they have up front playing European sides who are very clinical, and they are very clinical. If you look at how
Definitely.
Richarlison is playing right now, Tottenham
Oof.
are asking themselves if they can get this version after Christmas. So, like, I think the goals will come. It's just they're just technically superior, and when you're technically superior, no coaching can ever beat you, and that's the
No,
thing about it.
definitely.
Yeah.
No, I get you 100%. We're going to have to see how this one unfolds, and I definitely think that, from my perspective, Brazil is the team to beat. Definitely looking for Brazil to take this one to the next level and actually just set the pace in the World Cup in terms of standards and everything else. But Mpho, it's always a pleasure chatting to you on the show, and I look forward to us doing it again sometime soon. Maybe next week we get to hear your thoughts on the game and exactly what you think of how everything is going to unfold going further in this tournament. But thanks so much for your time this evening. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you have a superb weekend and an amazing evening ahead.
You too, take care. You too.
Always a pleasure. That was football analyst Mpho Mutloane giving us insight on what he thought of the World Cup and everything that these teams had to offer. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we do come back, we're going to be chatting a little bit more football World Cup. We do know that it's the tournament and the topic on the tips of everybody's tongue. When we come back, we're going to be chatting all things football. Before we do let you go and enjoy the football that's on offer this evening.
Listen to Salam Media.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge. your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
For every child who lost a parent,
For every refugee who lost their home,
For every community without water,
For every person searching for a way to give, Africa Muslims Agency has been at your service for 35 years, connecting hearts and changing lives. Thank you for helping us to serve the needy since 1987. Support our journey by donating to Africa Muslims Agency as we commemorate 35 years of empowering, educating, and inspiring.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Welcome back to Salam Media. I'm your host, Takir Dowdy. It is now 35 minutes past 7, and everybody's warming up and getting excited for the World Cup action that we have installed this evening. We do know that there's a host of fixtures that will be taking place, many of which everybody's lining up and getting himself cozy and comfortable for England taking on USA at 9 o'clock this evening. It's going to be a tough encounter. I'm definitely back in the English on this one. After the standards they set in their first game, I think they're definitely going to carry that momentum through going further. At the moment, Netherlands are taking on Ecuador with that game tied at 1-1. Will Ecuador cause another upset? Well, we'll have to wait to find out. Tomorrow, we've got a host of fixtures as well. Tunisia taking on Australia in the opening game of the day. Then Poland take on Saudi Arabia, who will be flying high after getting a victory against Argentina and also breaking Argentina's unbeaten run of 35 games. Argentina were just 2 games short of setting the longest unbeaten run ever in international football. Big ups to Saudi Arabia for breaking that record. France then take on Denmark at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. The French will be looking to take their title defense to another level. Argentina, on the other hand, with a derby against American rivals, Mexico. Which one of these teams will be able to come out on top? It's do or die for Argentina. If they win this game, their hopes of playoff football is still alive. For Mexico, it's giving hope to a nation. And by winning the next game, they definitely will be looking comfortable and quite confidently hoping to make it out of the group stages. On Sunday, there is also a host of fixtures. I mean, spectacular ones indeed. Japan start off the day against Costa Rica. Kickoff for that game is at 12 o'clock. And then Belgium take on Morocco in the mid-afternoon game, with Croatia taking on Canada in the first fixture of the evening. And then the big one for the night, Spain will be taking on Germany. Also one where Germany will need to bounce back if they want to keep their title hopes alive. It's going to be interesting. I hope that you guys are tuned in to the World Cup action and see what this World Cup has to offer. Comment in the comment section below. Tell us what you think is going on, and let's see how this one unfolds and goes ahead. I hope that some of you guys' predictions are on point. I know that everybody who was back in Argentina is definitely looking for another team to support now after not getting off to an impressive start. But well, only time can tell how this one will unfold. We do know in 2010 World Cup, Spain lost in their opening game and then went on to win the tournament. So could this be a similar case for Argentina? Well, who knows? Stay tuned to the FIFA Football World Cup to see how this one unfolds. But from myself and the team, that's us for the evening. It was a pleasure chatting all things football with you guys and just wrapping up the World Cup and what's happening. Till next week, from myself, Dakir Daud, producer Salailo Makodiri, and Sadek at the back there, we'd love to thank everybody for tuning in. Until next week, from myself and the team, Assalamu alaikum.